All right, guys. So we are here to talk about visualizing. So our objective today is that after reading and discussing a model, readers will visualize in order to improve reading comprehension, which means what you're understanding. So our definitions of visualization are as follows. Visualization is the process of forming mental images while reading, and it helps readers understand and engage with the text. And we use our sensory details, so sight, sound or hearing, smell, taste, and touch. So a checklist that we can use while we are visualizing and looking for those details in the text. The first thing we can do is identify the descriptions of characters. Then we can look at the descriptions of the settings. When and where does this take place? Then we can identify the descriptions of the events. What is happening in the text. And then we can identify sensory details. So things that we can touch, taste, see, hear, all of that. So some guiding questions that you can ask yourself while you're reading. Am I having trouble following the story? Would visualizing help me understand the characters, settings, and events? How do sensory details enhance your understanding, make it so that you can understand better? And how does your interpretation change after you have visualized it? So after you've made that picture, how has your thoughts changed? So let's look at an example from a poem called The Tide Rises, the Tide Falls. So let's look down here where it says context. The tide rises, the tide falls, the twilight darkens, the curlew calls. Along the sea sands damp and brown, the traveler hastens toward the town. And the tide rises, the tide falls. So let's look at this bolded line. Along the sea sands damp and brown. Okay, what sense does that require us? Are we seeing it, hearing it, smelling it, tasting it, or touching it? You should have said seeing it. We are seeing the sea sand as damp and brown. Example 2, the same piece, except now we're looking at the line that says, the twilight darkens, the curlew calls. And there are 2 right answers. So are we seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, or tasting? You should have said seeing, sight, and hearing, sound. Okay, we see that the twilight darkens and we hear the curlew calling. In example 3, we have a different section of this poem. Darkness settles on roofs and walls, but the sea in darkness calls. The little waves with their soft white hands efface the footprints on the sands. And the tide rises, the tide falls. So what senses are we using? We're using 2. The little waves with their soft white hands efface the footprints on the sands. So are we seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, or touching? You should have said seeing and touching. We are seeing the footprints and we are touching the waves. We are feeling the waves. So some conclusions we can make after reading that is that the traveler in the poem is in a hurry to reach the town before dark, and that the footprints that are being erased suggest impermanence, which means it's not permanent. Repetition is symbolizing or representing the continuous cycle of nature. So now you need to write your Cornell Notes summary. Here are your sentence starters. Remember that you need 2 or 3 sentences for your notes to be complete. Great work.